bad record. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Horsnell.
Start. That's it. Point measures backwards forwards. Different. If you want to slow down, give you another time.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. Yeah. Over the years, it's interesting. We've done a lot of the things I thought that we part with you guys. What we do is things that are a little bit different. Like we do a lot of soft sand, a lot of combinations of sand with our plyometrics to grass to track. And people have said to me over the years, "Oh, what do you do sand for? It's too slow. There's no point. You're not going to get out off the ground." But the way we do it, it's soft sand work that we do is specific, and it's developing the overall muscle groups that you need to improve on other areas on a harder surface. So I found we've discovered that it just goes hand in hand together. So the plyometric loading with some of the exercises we do, we emphasize the physical capacities of getting out of the ground and using the hips. That's the key thing. I've had guys, it was interesting, from Hong Kong. They came over and they could jump, Michael, who could jump 210, which is near, and I think he's broken the Hong Kong record now. And we got him doing some plyometrics, introduced him to sand work where we're coming out, trying to get quicker and use the posterior chain more readily. So first of all, he starts and he says, "Oh, I can't do a lot of plyometrics because it stirs up my shins and knees." I said, "Why is that? Show me." And I said, he's like straight into the ground, every contacts. Big issues with efficiency off the ground. So we introduced him to soft sand and he's flying over it, loves it. And then the key thing is you go soft sand, then you go back to it's in the same week, you go back to the grass, and the efficiencies that you get from hopping on the sand back to the grass, all of a sudden the athlete goes, "Oh, I feel that feels so much easier." And the injury reduction is really interesting, that you're getting your body to work in a manner that the hips, the foot contacts are working a lot more efficiently, and then your ground contact times improve with that, which leads to the other events. So working through that, I'm in engineering and I love measuring things, and these are grasses, hops. This is Nicola, this is left side, this is right side. You can see her jumping leg is the right, the left side is the weak leg, which is what we have to work on both sides to get even, and you work cross trains to get the whole body working as a unit. So you look at the beginning, the left side was pretty atrocious when we did these on the sand and the grass, and the right side wasn't too bad. But you can see as we went through, these are measurements of 20 meters. We mark out on both lots, and we measure the time taken to hop at speed on the right leg and on the left leg, and you just track that over time and see where you're at. The blue is so of all of that, we work on sand, grass, and every now and then we'll throw in a track contact, once a month, or it would be after the deload. So we might have 3 really hard weeks of loading and then the deload, but you wouldn't put it in the deload because that's the recovery period. You're not at your best. So any result, if you try and do stuff in the deload period, the body's actually not 100%. For all the testing we do, Nicola is always better. The first or sometimes the second week after deload is where she's at a peak, producing everything more conducively to higher performance. It's interesting. The third week is really coming off a bit. Deload is usually down because you just need recovery, and that's telling you that the deload has to be there. So.
No, just a quick question. Can you give us an idea of the times?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've got this. Yeah, so this is our hopping. So if we look at, I've seen people do speed hops around the world, and I don't like it because and it's fast, but they're just dropping the foot into the track. They have a lot of, this is a slow-mo one of Nicola, and we're looking at producing these high, tall positions at speed. So you're not trying to block. This has got to be done. You're recruiting your hips, and you're getting up taller, and you're trying to do that fast. So initially, when we did this, we would time, and we would give the athlete their time, and if the actual physical movement wasn't up to scratch, we go, okay, you've got 3.2 seconds plus 2 seconds because your technique was no good, so 5 seconds. So the athlete go, what? And when they had a better technique, you're down to 3.2 seconds and no seconds for the technique. And all of a sudden they got into their head that, hey, if my technique's better, I'm improving. And 100% they had no issues. So when you look at, then we go to sand, and especially on this, you look at the contact. This is Katie Gunn, a long jumper, where she's getting the foot through, and we measure the contacts on the sand. And when you see the sand come out the back, it's good. When you see the sand go forward, and their time struggles because on sand you just stop. So with Katie, see the contact out the back, and this is on the Central Coast. It's pretty hard. We have great beaches there. It's a hard life that we have. The tide comes in and cleans the beach for us, and we just mark it out. So from that, we then put together some figures. So this is Nicola's speed hops and bounds. So hops on the left leg side on the sand is 3.31. Grass 2.96. This is Nicola's weak leg. Trap 2.93. Right leg 2.95. Grass 2.96. And trap 2.78. So you would have thought sand and the grass would be the same times.
Mm-hmm.
But sand is too slow. And guess what? We don't ever have any foot, ankle, shin problems.
But just picking up on this, I think this is really valuable stuff for the coaches. The stuff on the sand, what's happening is all these minor adjustments, the micro adjustments of balance are probably protecting her from future injuries.
Yeah, and the body, and it's interesting that I always ask your athlete feels what's the feedback that they give me.
Yeah.
And we do a sand session, and we make sure we do a grass session in the same week, so it's together. So the sand session, the grass session, feels so much easier. Coming out and work, the body's feeling great. Probably, you've got to work on the glutes a lot more because they become more active. Because that's one of the big things with the sand is when the foot contact is right. Because you look at the imprint in the sand of is it too. You say if there's no dorsiflexion, toe dominant, you don't want to have that where you're laying on the toe first. And we look at the foot contact. So my friend Kelly from Italy, he worked with the human triple jumpers, and back in 2018, I think we had a conference, and when they did that, they talked about they do a lot of soft sand work for their triple jumpers, and he said they measure the contacts like we've been doing that and look at the shape of the foot, whether if it's too toe driven, if you like, instead of being patient, let the foot hold dorsiflexion and then fire through the hips to get the right coordination of contact to hip ratio, if you like, for producing efficient, you're really looking at efficient contacts. And the reason why we look at doing this for high jump, we do everything mostly single leg, where high jump, we want to get a contact where we're coming into contact and it's got to work through the hip. If you're just through the bar or that glute and complex glute med, glute max doesn't work together a unit and hold the position, you're really not getting the necessary force transfer that we look at. So with doing this, we're trying to get quick contacts, but still work through a hip position that's going to transfer to the jump.
Matt, can you don't mess up your presentation? Yeah. Can you go back to when we watched Nicola pounding?
Yep.
Just want to point something out to someone. Okay. A lot of people think that this is just about conditioning, folks, but there's a big technical component in here. I'd like you to watch. Can go back to Nicola.
That one, and then go forwards one, and that works now. Yep.
If you watch the free thigh coming through each time, it's not about faster, it's about earlier. And this is the key to all jumping, by the way. It's the speed of the free thigh coming through. And that comes through on every bound. If that is delayed, you go flat. If you get it in early, you go up. So you've really done well in this one.
And that's why I like that video to show that. And the hip, what I see with long jump, if that glute med, especially glute med complex, is out like a long jump, you'll see it with a lot of athletes who are in the air like this, and they haven't transferred directly from glute med to glute med here, instead of that being vertical, coming off that contact quickly and in a stable position. You'll see a rotation, a high jump, the athlete will come through and you'll see a rotation, and the fault will be, they put their arm out too early, but it's not here, it's back in the chain where the glute is misfired and not holding the. What I look for, like our biomex will tell you the foot contact time, but I look for the foot contact through the hip. What happens here for that first instance is a key one. Okay. So with that, we talk about what we've done with everything. We do a lot of this stuff too with foot strengthening. A lot of barefoot stuff. So this is our rudimentary series of stuff on the soft sand every week. We'll do this, just a little stuff back and forth, sideways. And that's, again, we never have any foot issues. You can do that in a long jump kit or whatever, but we like going down the beach. Really crowded. They're all just rudimentary. I think Dan Paff calls them rudimentary exercises that create foot strengthening, calf. We look at this. When I've done it myself, we call it the jumping muscle. My soleus muscle is just, I can just feel that, and I say, for an old bloke, I need to do this more.
I can see a lot of people are going to be in Gullen and Largs soon.
But that's something we do week in, week out all the time, and so many kids. I've had kids go, okay, we're going to do this. You've got to take the shoes off. I'm going to take the shoes off. They get so protected with their feet these days, where they're just, it's an inherent weakness that I find with feet. We really, like with Nicola and myself, we went to Germany and talked to Bridget from German athletics, and they showed us a lot of the stuff that they do. And this is way back in 2015. We spent a lot of time with them, and they're 100% where they do lots and lots of foot and ankle stuff, because they had German high jumpers that got so strong and powerful up their feet we just weren't strong enough, and they ended up breaking feet because they just weren't strong enough. And that was a lot of the feedback we got from them back then. Listen, and it's interesting we're talking about holding a stable position. We found things like, apart from me carrying that down to the beach, I get some funny looks about with people going, what the hell is he going fishing for? And we're working on cross trains, that's like a weighted pole. We're working instability through the hips and really working the left side. And I've taught Nicola these. I had a martial arts background, 15 years doing stuff, and one of the things I've found is like the left arm, right arm, left side sometimes is so dumb that it doesn't know what to do. So we work a lot on holding a position, and the left side has got to be able to get in a position. And you can't think of this hand, otherwise you don't get off the ground. So your body has to learn left side, right side to work independently. And with a lot of people, they hardly do any drills or anything with coordination, with imbalance with the left side, right side. And having that allows you to see the athlete and you say, okay, we want to get your left side working vertically, and you're coming off the takeoff position, and then you want to, but they can't think of that, otherwise they don't get off the ground. So it's important to have them do different things where their body works, they get used to arms and that moving independently without thinking about it. I know when I was martial arts days where I learned all this stuff, I couldn't, if I was sparring with someone, I couldn't go, I need to block that. It's like, got to happen, and then you've got to do things. And you can't be thinking about it. So I think that's an important thing of coaching, that you get your athlete able to do body movements without overthinking of, I've got to get this knee up, then they don't get off the ground. It's getting the body to work in different ways to be independent and work without the brain taking over. So this is a really interesting thing that I've added this in really from the last couple of weeks where we travelled and we've done a few things. With all the stuff we do with measuring hops and everything, like we said with soft sand, I do a lot of I love my data. So we track gym data for velocities. So power cleans, we do trap bar jumps. So the volumes, like what we found in a competition before we go into a comp, we've been for the last, since 2018, we've been doing a activation session before a comp, and for me, for me, it's the activation session is something we've always done, which has allowed Nicola to perform, and she always achieves a consistent high-level performance. I've never seen anywhere we have a bad day, have a good day. It's fairly consistent over the whole period, and one of the things we've done is have an activation session the day before. But for me, it's like, it doesn't work. Well, I look at the results and it's very consistent, and I assume it works. But an example of what we've done on the trap bar double jumps, we track this. I've been tracking this for, got a data. If I rolled it out now, it'd be out the door of the data that I've collected. So it's the trap bar double jumps is something that we measure, where you can see where she jumps, but it's important we don't let the weight drop and unload too. So you jump, and what you have to do is eccentrically slow the weight and then fire. So you've got a concentric, and we look for the second jump being better than the first, if you like. And that's something we've always done, and it's we do deload and we work up. Say our deload is 80 kilos for Nicola, and then other weeks it's 80, 85, 90, 100. So one of the really interesting things I've found, this is gym activation, 80 kilos, and you'll see the activation, and you look how it's dropped off. So we go into the comp phase, comps are red, the red lines. Before that is the build-up, which shows really good build-up of building up to the first comp. And surprisingly, when we do the activation before the comps, in a lot of cases, it's at a worst case, and you think, what's going on there? Beat myself up. But when you actually think about it, you add the activation, and the next with the actual competition performance was up here. So what that data is telling me is that she needed the activation, especially this last comp. That was before she jumped 201. You would think, oh no, I think she's season best. And what it told me is that without the activation, she might have been in that little zone there to have a flat spot, because that's what it looked like going the day before. Because next day after the activation, looking really great. And that's probably, she was at the highest point over the bar. 199 was about a 208, I think so. But that feedback from that information that I track every week, we track all gym and look for velocities across the board. It's if you look at this data leading into the same comps, this is for 85 kilos. So this is something we don't do. That's not an indicator of the activation. It's like deload, normal weeks, Monday, Friday, not the day before the comp. So you look at that data for the blue building up of the comps, you go, look, that looks great, really stable. So that's 85 kilos. We go back to the 80, and that's mostly, we just use 80 for activation and deload, and it's telling you a different story altogether. And I really love that, because it's confirmed why Nicola has consistent performance, that she gets out of the activation session really works for her, and it's that info is telling me that. So I like collecting data, but I don't like doing it for nothing. And that's the feedback I get from that, is that we're heading in the right direction and doing the right thing. Yeah.
So can you just explain, are you tracking jump height there, or is it bar speed? Or?
It's max velocity here. So it's similar, because you'll get the same. The device I've got is an ODR device, which is an American one, which is not too bad, pretty economical, and really, the yellow data is a different device I've used, and you can't compare the two. One's a wearable, and one's a fixed line onto the bar, which is the blue. But I just keep it there and you really only can measure what you use off the same device that I've found. So your device that you're measuring off, you can compare what you get out of that, but not between different devices. Otherwise you'll look, oh, what a great rise Nicola's had in consistency, but it's just a different movement pattern. And what we're looking to get is consistency across there, and I found it really interesting tracking the lighter weight. That was an activation session, was different, and it was the feedback they gave me for that.
Okay, like take the Nicola's experience, and you're not training peacefully all the time now. Is that?
Yeah, well, she will track, like this trap bar jump. She goes up to 100 kilos, and we through the session she go 85, 90, 95, just 2 jumps in between other stuff we do. So we track that, and it's interesting that tracking it, like you have enough, like she's done snatches 40 kilos, and we track it, and you get a result on that. And you think, oh, you've only been doing 40 to 50 kilos that whole time over the years, but the feedback you get from tracking it, show the athlete, it's like, I'm getting better. Where if you go to other athletes, it's like, what's on the bar? I need to get more on the bar to get better. But you track the velocity and you want an athlete to be moving the weight quicker over the long term, not getting massive and being a weightlifter. You know, it's not about a weightlifter, it's about what do you do with the weight and how do you track. In 2022, when we had world champs Nicola coming out of there, she just won a silver medal at Tokyo in 21. Coming into the next phase, she got COVID, she had a bad back massage in the US where they injured her back a little bit and she struggled. And my data that I had for that, it just dropped off and it really showed that she was struggling with moving the weight quicker, same way, I had to pull everything back and I could track it as she was coming back, and I remember at the time, that coach doesn't know what he's doing, Nicola's dropped right off, but it was from the combinations of stuff and tracking what she was doing through gym work. It really helped me to get her back to a level and understand things a little bit better. It was quite good, even though it was a tough time.
Can I just ask, you've got the contact elevations 2x2 quarter squats. So I was wondering, are you doing like contrast sequence? Is it quarter squats plus fat bar double jumps, or is it?
Yeah, that's we do. One of the most important things, that's a trap bar jump. So for an activation session, it's got to be low volume, but a high intensity. So for quarter squats is the last thing she does, and that's I learned that from Keely, who wrote Periodization of Training with Tudor Bomb for the last 3 editions, and he's been involved in that, and he's been really helpful for me. So what he said, quarter squats, which are, and we don't, like, someone like Nicola has a little scoliosis, she never has a back issue, but the way we do a quarter squat, we put the rack at that position. And I don't want her walking around with, she does 185, 180 kilos, which is 20 to 30% more than she would normally squat. So it's got to be higher than you would normally feel a position. So that you're just doing 2x2, this is the last thing you do for the activation. And your body's got to go, oh, hell, this is a bit heavier than normal. And it fires the nervous system to be ready and primed, but without any fatigue whatsoever. You don't want any fatigue, but you want to have the athlete just ready to go, oh, I need to work, the body needs to get working.
Can I ask, how precise are you? Obviously, there's a variety of data about how long you should wait between your heavy squat and then whether it's your jump or whatever, so say 5 minutes, something a bit shorter, something a bit longer.
Yeah, we'll do the jumps first and then finish with the quarter squats, and you have a good 5 minutes recovery between the quarter squats.
I'm guessing the timing of this this loading is pretty important relative to the major competition.
Yeah, you really don't want to have any fatigue, so it's really important that the whole thing for an activation takes half an hour. You're in there and out, but it's 2 snatches, a hang clean. We do a clean and jerk where it's we'll clean from the ground, move to the jump leg is the jerk, and it's just punch it up, drop it on the ground. We don't try and be a weightlifter and jerk, catch it. It's like pick it, catch it, put your jump leg forward and try to work the hip position. Just drop it on the ground, and you do 2 of them, and that's it. And then jumps with the slow jump, slow jump. 2 of them, and then the 2x2 quarter squats, and it just works brilliantly.
Can I ask? I'm working with younger athletes.
Yeah.
And we don't have access to this kind of ability to measure them. I'm thinking in my head, I thought box jumping.
Yeah.
Even with a weighting champion, that have sort of a similar kind of activation.
One of the things I've done with the young kids is you get them, they go there, and you go, okay, you go into a squat, hold, and then I push on your shoulders. And then when I let go, you jump. So you just put a little bit of load like that. So you hold them there. They go push a little bit and then let it go. Just using that little bit of body weight where it's not. I don't mind. We do limited work with a weighted vest because you've got to watch with ankles compression a little bit. But especially on a harder surface. And we do a lot of box jumps. Steps where I quite like, we go hopping up steps, and on the way down, we do nice light contacts, bouncy stuff. There's a little plyometric on the way down the step. As long as the steps are wide enough, I hate we got little narrow steps don't work. Have a wide step, and you can just be the contacts on the way down can be more beneficial than what you're doing on the way up.
I mean, coming back to the timing aspect of this,
Yeah.
is there a difference in when you finish your activation or your peak activation, the time between that and the optimal competition for women and for men? Personally, I found a difference.
Yeah, I imagine there is. What works for Nicola? There was some theory that you do it 7 hours before, and we tried that. And it's always a pain because it's the comps later, and you've got to get up at 7 a.m. and then we tried that, and Nicola said, "Oh, I just feel like there was some residual load in the muscles." Where we found we try and 24 hours before, so if you got a 5 or 6 p.m. comp, you do it in the afternoon, like that time before, and she never has any issues. And for her, that works really well. But I've seen other athletes where it can be beneficial, and I think the best way is trial it. You do a weekend jump session, no comps, and you just trial something at a training session and see what happens, see how you feel, see what, and make a mini comp and see how did that feel, how was that on your body. Don't leave it to the major comp to try something new. But I've said, let's trial something leading up, and that Jim will do an activation before our training session on Saturday. And let's see how that feels. And if they pull up, they're on, it's great, it's really active. Well, let's try it in a comp now.
Yep.
And that's just gradual movements and gradual build up. Let the athlete is important that they have the feels. You just don't put something on them and they feel like they don't get anything out of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. That's about it, I think.
That's just one quick question.
Yep.
Yeah. I get your prerequisites with regards to measuring the foundation performance of your athlete. What happens during your pre-com where you're actually doing your activation is the data come back and was the puzzle? How do you deliver it to your athlete?
Yeah, she doesn't want to know.
You don't tell her.
No, she doesn't want to know if you've done well or break records. She just looks at me and goes, "Stop it now." So we'll have sessions leading up, and it's like the best you've ever done, and I'm just going. Oh wait, stop it. That can be negative, like especially if you go into a hole with some athletes, will, especially in that group where the body look changes, and I find especially if athletes try to starve themselves, the first thing that drops off will show me that your power's dropped off and something's happening, and it gives you a bit of a loop feedback and say, what's happening here? You dropped off. And with an athlete, I had a young guy, he was a 95 kilo jumper, he was a bit heavy, he's more in tune with that decathlete, but he was looking at trying to get below 90 kilos, and he just, like, even with his power cleans, he's struggling to do 90 kilos. And then we just had talks, you just doing it, and he would be in a comp and he would just lose he had no energy, and he would just, because he's just not eating properly, and he's trying to get below that. And we said, well, just cut that out and train properly. And I said, I'm only trying to be a decathlete, let's see if you can do that. So all of a sudden he changed that. He got a girlfriend who made him eat properly because he was trying to be a vegetarian as well. And all of a sudden he was eating meat and he went to 95 kilos. He jumped PBs 206 and his power clean went from 90 to 140 kilos in a year, purely from eating properly. And his power wise, he jumped PB and he's high, but his build is like that and that's how he is, you know, you can't hide from that. So that data I got was like everything's dropping off and loads. It really gave me a lot of feedback what was happening to him. I found quite interesting. Yeah.
Well, folks, that's been a fantastic session, isn't it? I've got loads of notes here. He's going to be around for a session right through the lunchtime, so you can catch him up with questions. 5 minutes worth of relaxation now. I'll possibly set the next one up, but let's wait for it.